Good morning, good morning, good morning. Grab your coffee, grab your seat, grab your friends. Let's get started. All right. Thank you everyone for joining us this morning at 1 Million Cups. My name is Kyle. I'm one of your community organizers. I'll introduce the rest of them in just a second. But first, let's do this. Can you raise your hand if this is your first time at 1 Million Cups? We have any first timers? Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining us, especially our UMKC summer scholars. Thanks for coming to hang out. So here's the deal. We'll have two entrepreneurs come up. They will talk about their business for about 6 minutes. We'll turn it over to our expert panel after that to ask a few questions, and then we'll turn it over to you to also ask questions. So pay attention and be ready to ask those hard questions so that our entrepreneurs can get a lot out of this. If you haven't already, please pull out your phones and download the 1 Million Cups app. Please download the 1 Million Cups app. That allows you to provide feedback to our presenters and to us so that we know that you're getting the most out of this as well. All right, we have a bigger crowd up here than you saw last week. So like I said, my name's Kyle. I'm one of your volunteer community organizers. This is John, Courtney, and Tyler. You know those faces, but we have some new faces down on the end. So we are very excited to introduce you to our new community organizers. That's Reverend Billy, Nicole, and Caitlin, and they are going to tell you a little bit about themselves.
Hi, everybody. My name is Billy Hupp. I'm a reverend, but I'm also here because I'm an inventor and making some great business connections and good business relationships and just volunteering my services.
Hi, my name is Nicole Bissey. I've been a professional photographer in Kansas City for about 6 years now. I'm here for the coffee, I'm an avid Shark Tank watcher, so obviously this is right up my alley. But I'm super excited to learn about more businesses and get closer to my community.
Hello, I'm Caitlin Trotsky, and I work for Back9 Marketing. It's a company that's just me, but I run the marketing for 7 golf courses in and around the Kansas City area and then consult for small business marketing. So I'm here for networking and to learn about what's going on in Kansas City.
Awesome. All right, we'll keep those intros going and introduce to you our expert panel today. Take it away, gentlemen.
My name is Xander Winkle. I'm with the Innovation Center Business Incubator in Independence. We are a traditional business incubator. We've got space, and then we provide resources to startup companies. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out, please connect with us on our website or stop by. I'd love to give you a tour and tell you more about what we do.
Hello, my name is Matthew Marcus. I'm with the Kansas City Startup Foundation. We are an organization helping to unify and champion Kansas City's startup community. So if you want more information, come check me out and we'll talk.
All right, thank you both for joining us. Let's have a warm welcome for our first presenter, Jacob with Introvert Travels.
Thank you. Have you ever had a moment where you realize that you're supposed to do something more with your life? There I was on a hike in the high desert of southern Utah, surrounded by nothing and everything all at the same time. And it was that lack of stimuli that allowed my overactive introverted brain to realize that I needed a life that was full of travel, of nature, and a little bit of adventure. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was then that the seed of Introvert Travels was planted. I'd like to point out that that top photo was taken at that aha moment in Utah 2 years ago. And the bottom photo was taken 2 months ago in the Atacama Desert of southern Peru. And it struck me that I was actually slowly kind of making these dreams a reality. Good morning, and thank you so much for having me at the flagship chapter of 1 Million Cups. I'm really excited to be here. I'm Jacob Merrick, and I'm the founder and chief explorer at Introvert Travels. I left a career in finance 2 years ago to pursue that dream of travel. Last year, I sold all of my belongings, left the big city of Miami, and moved back to my hometown of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, which was a humbling experience, to say the least. But now I travel 6 months out of the year as an entrepreneur. And for what it's worth, my Myers-Briggs type is an INFP, which basically means I'm a human golden retriever. So this morning I'm going to share with you my big idea, where I've been, where I am, and where I'm headed. At Introvert Travels, I design life-changing travel experiences for curious introverts. I do so with a 2-to-1 travel planning ratio of 2 parts rest and recharge time, where you can read a book on the lanai or do yoga in your underwear if that's what you want to do. But once a day, I want to blow your mind with a life-changing, awe-inspiring trip that's going to change the way you see the world. I have expert on-site guides that are able to create unique experiences that you won't get through any guidebook or online booking engine. I have professional photographers on the sidelines taking photos of and for you and providing you with several Instagram-worthy posts each day. We go to off-the-beaten-path destinations that emphasize nature, culture, and history. So imagine yourself on a thrilling African safari watching the circle of life unfold in front of your very eyes, or wondering what the hell happened on Easter Island. But nobody actually really knows for sure. But suffice it to say, these are definitely not your typical beach vacations. No, I plan experiences for nature nerds, science geeks, bookworms, and any other introvert who's just curious about the world in which we live. So counterintuitively, these travel experiences are fantastic for small groups. We're not all solo travelers as introverts. So these would be great for local hiking and nature clubs, for photography groups, and even small groups of families and like-minded friends. And in the future, I do plan on offering some set date departures as well, where people can travel solo, but not alone. So as I plan my business out, as I mentioned, I spend 6 months a year in my hometown of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, which allows me actually to travel and live abroad as I build my travel portfolio around the world the rest of the year. So I'm building a signature portfolio which allows me to experience life from a local perspective. And as an introvert, I prefer to connect deeply and authentically with my local partners, suppliers, and expert guides. And all the while, I'm documenting the experience in order to share it with my fellow introverts and hopefully instill a sense of wanderlust in their own lives to create a bucket list type trip for themselves, even if it's only for a week or two at a time on their PTO. So the crux of my business is all based on content marketing. So I do a lot of blogging, and we all know that videos are an increasingly important part of the social spectrum. So on social media, I'm only on Facebook and Instagram. That's what I'm good at, and that's what I like. I have a small engaged group on Facebook where we share bucket list ideas, travel photography, future travel plans, and it's also a place where I have open office hours where they can approach me as their personal travel advisor to ask travel-related questions during the week. All of those blogs tie into my Facebook ad strategy as well. So I create Facebook ads from that content, and once you've signed up via a Facebook ad, then you'll be entered into a sales funnel where you'll receive a short series of welcome emails introducing me, the company, and inviting you to engage a little bit more authentically with me as well. And of course, I have a weekly newsletter, which is non-promotional, non-spammy, but simply some interesting itineraries I might be working on that week, or an inspirational playlist or podcast that I listen to. Now, I have had a few challenges over the years, and specifically finding exactly how to get in front of my ideal clients. It's something that I'm getting better with each day, but I personally prefer to engage with people in Facebook groups and non-competitive Facebook pages. And as an introvert, I'm not a natural-born salesperson, so I've really struggled with simply asking for the sale, which is sort of what business is all about, right? And then finally, just having enough clients in order to establish processes and procedures. I'm truly grateful for all the clients that I do have, but each one has been a learning experience to learn how to make my business a little bit more efficient each time. And in the future, I definitely plan on hiring a small team of employees and independent contractors who I can rely on and trust to delegate the smaller trips, which allows me to focus my energy and time on the smaller groups that I had mentioned earlier. I also plan on having a small in-house production team where I can get some better video equipment, photography gear, and create visual content on the fly. And I also hope to, and have planned to, eventually establish my own educational foundation to sort of give back to the communities in which I lived as an entrepreneur nomad, to say thank you for allowing me to build my business. But for the time being, all of my clients currently receive a gift credit to Kiva.org, which is a charitable micro-lending site which believes that entrepreneurship is the surest way to alleviate global poverty. And for now, I think that's pretty cool. So in summary, Introvert Travels is all about crossing items off your bucket list and creating unique experience to off-the-beaten-path places in a way that's comfortable and less stressful for us introverts. And if you'd like to connect with me, here's my contact info online and on social media. So with that, I will open up to questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. We'll open it up to our panelists, if you guys want to go ahead.
let me speak for probably not just me, but everybody else in the room about how incredibly jealous I am about your way of making a life. But that does beg the question, if I may ask, how is business? Are you making enough from this itself to sustain not only yourself, but you plan to grow, hire people? Sure. Are you projecting that you'll be there?
That's a really good question. I actually got my career started in the travel marketing industry. And so at the moment, I would say half to maybe even 75% of my income comes from consulting on the travel marketing side, helping other travel agencies develop better social media, better branding, and a niche of their own, which is a kind of fun way for me to generate income. But at the same time, living in Sioux Falls allows me to have a lower cost of living. So I don't need a ton of sales in order to do what I do. But yeah, business is actually kind of picking up, definitely.
So first of all, great presentation.
Thank
this
you.
is really nice.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely worth another round of applause. Great presentation deck too. Really easy to read, really clear. So, man, a lot of fans in the room for you.
Thank you.
So I'm curious. You say you're an introvert. I mean, I'm surprised because you're.
This is not comfortable for an introvert, by the way. Speaking in front of everybody.
You seem very comfortable on the stage.
Thanks.
So how is the market size? I guess because I was reading through your website. I'm like, okay, great. It's a travel, experience company focused on introverts, and I don't know how big that market is. In other words, if I'm an extrovert, can I come, and use your services or what?
Sure. Well, I'm not going to give you a Myers-Briggs test in order to come on one of my trips, although I do prefer that people sort of self-select. So I think just by the name Introvert Travels, it's pretty clear who I target. Extroverts are absolutely welcome. However, you're going to be living in our world for a week. But Sure. Well, the world of introversion is all about sort of having time to recharge your batteries. So it's not necessarily being a hermit or even traveling solo, but simply being able to recharge your batteries at the end of a really thrilling day. So like I said, if you wanted to take the time to read a book or do yoga, you can also go to dinner or even go on a hike with a new travel buddy. Building in that time, that flexibility to create your own experience, whatever that may be, and to have the time at the end of the day to sort of go back and recharge your batteries.
One of your biggest problems is getting in front of customers, making the sale. Of the folks that you've gotten so far, how are they getting to you?
At the moment, it's mostly social media. I actually have people approaching me on Instagram, on Facebook. It's been word of mouth as well from friends, family, previous clients. And I've actually had recently some pretty good PR as well as in the Boston Globe, which helped get some activity from that to gain some new fans. People reaching out via my website. But at the moment, most of it is social media, and of course, it's all online.
And what about pricing? I think I remember seeing there was a minimum cost to price out a trip and such.
Yeah, I have a minimum cost of, it's $2,000 for domestic and $3,000 international. This helps me sort of maintain a level of profitability as well as maximizing and making my time more efficient, as well as simply getting the right clientele to the right destinations. So I have a pretty select portfolio of these off the beaten path type places, and that comes with a certain price tag. And so rather than having champagne taste on a beer budget, I'd like champagne drinkers on a champagne taste.
All right, with that, we're going to open it up to audience questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll bring mics around to you. Got to have more questions than that. Come on.
Got a question over here on the right.
Good morning. That was a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any idea what your LTV or lifetime value of your customers are yet?
That I do not know. I don't even think I have enough customers to run the numbers, but honestly, I'm not much of a numbers guy, so that's probably where I should have some help on that.
What about your cost of acquisition?
If I'm running Facebook ads, it tends to run about $3 to $4 per lead, and that's where I acquire most of my leads is from Facebook ads.
Have you done any strategic partnerships with other companies that have a sort of a like type of interest of customer?
I have a list of breweries and like nature clubs, but at the moment I haven't had anyone actually book a group of that nature. But that's certainly on the list of having kind of a joint venture partnership of that nature. Thanks.
Question in the middle.
Yeah, this is just quick. Is there a reason why you're not on Twitter? And I say that because until you said you weren't, I went to look for you there.
Oh, okay.
So I'd encourage it.
That's interesting, yeah. The reason I'm not on Twitter is because I guess for me it's sort of I always say like heavy and light. And for me, Twitter always felt heavy. And so when I focus on what I'm good at, what I enjoy, and where the majority of my ideal clients are, I assume you're probably on Facebook and or Instagram. I don't feel like I need to spread myself too thin. And if I were to do so, then I'd be taking my time away from doing other activities. So I prefer not to be on Twitter.
Well, question in the middle over here.
Do you just book individual travel, or do you do group travel? I mean, that kind of seems like it would go against the introvert.
It's a great question. Yeah, at the moment it's all independent trips, solos, couples, and even small groups of families and friends. However, in the future, I do plan on offering some set date departures of people who don't know each other yet. And I have a strategy behind that as well. It's in the travel industry, it's difficult to plan set date departures for just the masses. But I wanted to create a group experience of between 8 and 14 people. And before we actually get out on tour, I'd like to create a Facebook event for those groups so that you can kind of get to know the people that you're going to be traveling with. Because again, with introverts, it's all about relationships and having a deeper connection. So if you only have 8 to 10 days when you're on tour, it's sort of difficult sometimes to create deeper connections on that level. Whereas if you have a Facebook event page, then you can actually interact with people, friend them on Facebook, like their photos on Instagram, get to know them a bit better. And then once you're actually on tour, you can just hit the ground running with your new travel buddies. So that's how I'm going at it, but currently I don't have any set date departures at the moment. But stay tuned.
Question down front.
Good morning.
Good morning.
3 quick things. One, you're in a very heavily trafficked industry. How do you set yourself apart from all of your competition? Number one. Number two, have you explored Google Business and many of the free things they do, but also enhancements? I know you're talking social media, but don't overlook Google. They're the elephant in the room. And my third thing would be, you're doing individual sales now, but I think what you've got would be really good in a B2B, business-to-business environment where you're selling to associations or clubs or at conventions where you're picking up a group. And I know that's hard. You're an introvert, but
yeah.
You know, you understand what I'm saying, and thank you.
Thank you. This is a fantastic point about the B2B thing. And then honestly, at the moment, I really am focusing more on B2C, but I think that's a great point and something I can consider in the future. To your first point about differentiating myself, one of my social media mentors is Jasmine Star. She's a well-known travel photographer, kind of an Instagram star. And she was just kind of talking about attracting and repelling. And so I'm really not afraid to ruffle feathers. I'm not afraid to attract my ideal clients magnetically and repel those that are not, who are supposed to be within introvert travels. You're right, travel is a heavily competitive space. It's just everything and anything. But by creating, I think, messaging and a specific portfolio of destinations that people can instantly kind of know what I do and to whom, I think I carve out my own little niche there. And one of the things I think a lot of travel professionals don't realize is that the pie isn't finite. With the internet right now and the way things are, I think that there's an overwhelm of online booking engines. People have this misguided belief, I think, that they can do it all on their own. But there is a shift, in fact, amongst millennials, most importantly, where they realize that there is a limit of the internet. The limit, there's just so much out there. And so by hiring a travel professional like myself, they can save time, they can save the energy of doing the searching on their own. So when it comes to like developing a strong niche, I think that if you carve out your own slice of the pie, you don't actually need a huge amount with all of the booking engines. To Google, to your point on that, it is something that I probably overlook. I do focus most of my efforts on social media, but it's something, again, that I need to keep on my radar to talk to, maybe perhaps delegating that out to somebody who's more knowledgeable about SEO and Google AdWords and ranking and all that stuff. But I'm aware of like keywords, if that's kind of sort of what you're referencing. But yeah, in terms of like the Google, the Google umbrella, I'm not terribly knowledgeable about that.
Question on your right.
Jacob, first off, I got 2 questions for you, but before I go, I want to say congratulations on this. It takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing, and I really did enjoy your presentation. I have 2 questions for you. Yesterday I was listening to How I Built This from NPR and listened to Lonely Planet. Have you had a chance to, I have 2, first question is, have you had a chance to listen to Lonely Planet? Because they did something very similar to what you've done in the past, albeit this was like 30 some odd years ago, and they have a new reincarnation of that now. And the second question is, there are a lot of different things out there for travelers or people who like to travel, like there's Globe Kick, there's kayak, there's a lot of different things out there. What makes, and I'm deciding between several things right now. What if I decide to go to your thing? What's the difference between your travel site, your traveling experience versus anything else? Like, what's the difference between them and a group that's more experienced, or what's the difference between that?
The difference for introvert travels is that it comes at the perspective of the introverts in the world. If you've ever been on tour through a typical travel company or a large-scale tour operator, it is inherently geared toward the extroverts. And as I had mentioned, I was in travel marketing and I had clients, so I was working for the Kenya Tourist Board. I would go on safari all the time. I would go to Southeast Asia, and these tours were inherently geared toward extroverts. It's just go, 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 fill your itinerary the entire time with activities, have planned dinners with your group mates. But that is not how introverts like to travel. That's certainly not how I want to travel. So inherently, if you wanted to have a group travel experience or even a customized travel experience, I'm not going to be the one to fill up your itinerary with non-stop items. As it turns out, with all the different travel apps out there, the guidebooks, as I mentioned, there's just a ton of overwhelm in the travel industry. So I like to kind of take out the clutter for my clients, simplify things a little bit, and help them make their time more efficient when it comes to researching their itineraries. Of course, I realize that people are going to want to read the Lonely Planet guidebooks and find whatever it is that they want to do. So I can either help them plan that on their own, or I can budget enough free time in their vacation that they can do those Lonely Planet guidebook type of things if they'd like to, but I can help create the main parts of their itinerary. As it relates to other travel businesses, I'm just driving in my own lane. I don't really pay attention necessarily to what other small businesses are doing, and I'm certainly not competing directly with the big guys, Expedia, Orbitz, Travelocity, because those are, in my mind, those are commoditized travel. Many small travel agencies as well kind of try to do everything for everyone, specializing in Cancun and Cabo and that sort of stuff. And I don't sell those places. I'm not personally interested in them. My clients aren't. And frankly, there's not a lot of money in there. So I found that by targeting a specific niche, by targeting a specific type of destination, it attracts the right people. And I'm happy with the people who have come into Introvert Travels. Does that answer your question?
I have a question in the center.
I liked your presentation. I just have one little question. You said that you were looking for clients that had a champagne taste with champagne money. But it seems like a lot of introverts nowadays are going to be younger generations, and there's going to be some older people in that mix. But how are you going to be able to attract these younger people that want to do your experience but don't have that champagne money?
Sure. I maybe have misspoke. It's not necessarily champagne taste and champagne money, but it's more of a realistic expectation of cost. So when I say that I don't want the champagne taste on a beer budget, I mean that I like to attract clients by having that minimum fee to attract clients who have a realistic budget to travel to these places. It's simply not feasible to go to Easter Island if you only have a $2,000 budget. I can't help you. But by having a minimum of $3,000, and if you want to spend like 5 days in a certain location, I can probably work with that. So by attracting a certain type of client who actually budgets for travel, who makes it a priority. I hear people all the time saying, oh, I don't have the money to travel. But I guarantee that they have more money in their bank account than I do, and yet I was in Easter Island, the Galapagos, Machu Picchu. I say that not to brag, but because I make it a priority in my life. So my ideal clients actually make travel a part of their life rather than having to wing it on the fly when their friends propose a trip. No, they have it as a part of their annual budget. So those are the types of clients that I prefer to work with, are people who actually make it a part of their lives.
Question in the back.
Do your groups mostly come from the same city? And if so, do you work with them to make travel arrangements to at least, get on the same flight? And I also wonder about, singles. People who are single often incur a lot of extra costs at the local site. Do you, kind of help people sort of pair up and, save costs over the course of the trip?
Sure. Well, at the moment, all of my clients are from all over because it's an online business. So they can come from any cities. At the moment, most of my clients tend to come from Minneapolis, Miami, New York, but that's simply because those are the places where I have established relationships and networks and friends. So word of mouth helps out a lot in those types of cities. But as it relates to pairing people up, I think that's a great point. I do give preference to suppliers who work with me to eliminate the single supplement or to minimize that. And again, by living in these destinations each year, I can develop more authentic and deeper connections with my suppliers, so they are more willing to work with me on those types of asks. So not every travel agent can ask for certain things from their suppliers, whereas if I go to Pepe in Peru, who I have gone on hikes with, I know him, I've gone to dinners with him and his girlfriend, I can ask for those types of things, and he can help me find the hotels and suppliers that don't charge a single supplement or that can alleviate that burden for a lot of us solo travelers. Because I get it, I travel alone, it's kind of expensive. So either having a roommate pairing up with them or finding suppliers that will eliminate that single supplement is really helpful.
We've got a question here in the back.
Very cool presentation, neat concept. Love the niche. I'm curious about maybe a security liability. Is there an insurance factor as you scale, as you do more individual or small group travel? One of the challenges in today's environment is those are a lot easier targets than the big extroverted groups, especially in off the beaten path locations. Does that come into play as you scale bigger, where someone could look to you for liability if, God forbid, something happens?
Yes, that's a great question. So in today's environment with safety issues, actually I always say that it's much safer if you're just out on safari and you're surrounded by animals and nature than you are if you're in a big city and you're in Paris or London or any of those global cities. Excuse me. But I do require all of my passengers to have travel insurance, whether they get it through me or through I don't recommend the credit card companies unless you've contacted them and you've gone through their fine print, but I do require proof of insurance for all of my travelers. So if something goes wrong, if there's a force majeure, act of God, whatever, they're covered on that end. From my end, if I make a mistake, if there is any sort of liability from my suppliers or anything like that, I do have insurance through my host agency. I have a host agency that's based in Denver, Colorado. I have my own brand. They have their own brand, but I use their licenses, their insurance policies, their insurance and all that stuff. So I am covered. I believe it's $500,000 that's a requirement by the federal government for travel insurance.
Question in the back.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm all right. I was really curious about, I guess, the whole travel thing. Being disabled, it is an issue when it comes to travel. For instance, I just tried to book a trip to the DR recently, and they couldn't really guarantee me accessible rooms. Mm-hmm. So, since you have that type of connection that you're saying up there, what guarantee could you make, to make that acceptable for people like myself, to use your service and don't have to go somewhere where we're not accommodated?
Sure. That's a really great question. This goes back to playing to one's strengths and our specificity. So I would love to help you if you're an introvert. However, the great thing about technology these days is that you can find a travel agency that's geared toward whatever you want. If you're not an introvert, you don't have to come to Introvert Travels. If you have a disability, there are companies out there, not plenty, but there are companies out there that specialize in disabled travel. So if I can't create a trip for you, I have a wonderful network of other travel agency contacts, and I can talk to you after the presentation, in fact, to make recommendations for people who do specialize in disabled travel. I know people who specialize in all sorts of different niches that you wouldn't even believe. So I would encourage you, if you can find a travel company that specializes in disabled travel. It may be an issue of just the DR not being accessible. There's different standards in different countries. We have it pretty good here in the US for legal purposes. But I would definitely be able to make recommendations, if I can't help you out, to refer you to other people who specialize in that type of travel.
So our final question for you today is, what can we as a community do to help you?
Well, aside from simply just liking all my social accounts, if you're an introvert, you can like my stuff. If you're an extrovert, you can use your loud, extroverted personalities to share this idea with all of your introverted friends. You know, I'm sure they would appreciate having somebody kind of hooking them up with their style of travel.
Thank you so much for your presentation today.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
We have one quick live announcement today. Matthew, you want to talk a little bit about 1 Week KC?
Yes, indeed. So 1 Week KC is a week to pause, relax, and celebrate Kansas City's startup community. It starts this Friday, and it goes for a week till next Friday. We've got 1 to 2 events throughout the week that caters to all different types of interests. One of the events this Friday is the Startup Crawl. It goes from 4:30 till 9. It's taking place in the Crossroads Arts District, 6 different locations. Awesome opportunity to go see some cool spaces, but also see some startups that are showcasing and kind of talking about their products and wares. And that should be a lot of fun.
Do you have enough startups yet?
I think we do. Okay. If you do have a startup and you want to showcase during the crawl, come see me. We might be able to squeeze you in. We're actually allocating them today, but we might be able to get you in. If you want more information, go to 1 Week. That's the number 1 weekkc.com. You do have to RSVP for a lot of the events, so make sure you go through each calendar day and pick the event that you want. And I also see them rotating up here on the announcements board. And yeah, hit me up if you have any questions.
Great, thank you. Also, for the 1 Week KC and other announcements, we are rotating them up on the PowerPoint, but we are also emailing them out weekly, so if you're interested in receiving more information, please sign up on our website. It's now time for Mug Club. John, are you ready? Okay, so if you've been to 1 Million Cups 10 times or more, raise your hand. If you've already received a mug, put your hand down. Anyone? Anyone?
He's close enough. Please tell us your name and why you come to 1 Million Cups.
My name is Ralph Macer, and I come to 1 Million Cups to just support the entrepreneurial community.
He's also one of our favorite entrepreneurs, so I'm not sure why he didn't mention that. But thank you, Ralph. Welcome to Mug Club. For our audience connection question, since Maker Faire is next weekend, please raise your hand if you need help with prototyping or inventing or anything along those lines. Anyone? No? Okay, well, I'm going to be over here on the right. If anybody has expertise in it or has interest in it, please come talk to me. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our second presenter. I've been kind of pressuring him to present at 1 Million Cups a few times, right? Okay. I'd like to welcome Benton Munyon with Helio today.
Thank you all very much. It's a pleasure to be here. First things first, though, I'm going to need some audience participation for my Instagram story. What's up, everybody? Okay, cool. Let's get started. It's a set amount of time. All right, so my name is Benton Munyon. Over the last 4 years, I've been spending every waking moment thinking, studying, learning, developing, networking, creating, and otherwise innovating nutrition products that positively impact the 60 trillion cells that make up the human body. But we have an issue. We deal with this thing called the standard American diet. It's full of processed carbohydrates, high sugar, and things that otherwise just simply do not make us well. I hate to bring this up because we all know it, and yet nothing really changes. Every year since 1960, we've gotten more and more obese, and yet we all know this, right? 1/3 of Americans are obese, 1/3 of Americans are overweight, 18% of our children are overweight, and it's not cool. We get bigger, and the medical industry continues to profit. That's why they're in business, can't hold it against them, but nobody's really asking the real question of, are we treating the cause, and are we not just treating the symptoms? Things that used to be kooky are no longer kooky. Over the last 5 to 10 years, we've seen a rise in what we used to laugh at. For example, gluten-free, juicing, non-GMO, organic, paleo, you name it. 10 years ago, we laughed at these concepts, and today, they're respected. We're witnessing modern-day evolution. We're getting smarter, and we're adapting. When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. My generation was given chicken nuggets, and I don't know how to make chicken nugget-ade. So we're just figuring it out. What I'm here to talk to you about today is fat. What I believe is the next most important thing in nutrition. We have wrongly diagnosed as fat being the issue of the graph I already showed you oh so depressingly. Fat is, our brain is 60% fat. When we're born, our brain is virtually the same size as it is today. The brain loves fat. Carbohydrates and sugar dehydrate the brain, and yet we think that fat is our issue. We need to be eating more fat. The food pyramid, what we learned in elementary school, is simply wrong. Using fats sparingly is not advised, and having carbohydrates as the base of a healthy diet is just simply not accurate. Lastly, fat is close to nature. There's nothing that is a healthy fat that is very processed. A healthy fat is a vegetable, it's a seed, it's a nut, it's a fish, it's an animal. There's very little process involved with eating fat and assimilating it. The truth about fat is that it supports all of these things, namely body composition. When you eat fat, it's super scientific, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but when you eat fat, it's very hard to oxidize. So you're in the process of burning fat as fuel much longer than you're in the process of burning sugars and protein as fuel. So because of this, you're burning fat as fuel, and you're storing muscle. Burning fat for fuel when you eat it, storing muscle. That's an important theme here. Heart health, brain function, hormone health, skin and healthy hair, among other things, with a high-fat diet. But don't take it from me. Dr. Jeff Volek, who is super well-renowned, he's been studying low-carb diets, high-fat diets, performance enhancement, doing these types of routines, has a quote that I'll read to you briefly. By continuing to provoke fear about the harmful effects of saturated fat, Americans have decreased their total consumption of saturated fat and replaced those calories with an even greater amount of carbohydrates. This dietary flip-flop of trading away saturated fat and replacing it with carbohydrates has occurred in the same time interval as the rates of obesity and diabetes have rocketed skywards. That graph from the 1960s is the same time frame which we've started eating more carbohydrates and our obesity has skyrocketed. Fat is not the issue. This might be coincidence, or more likely, it's an extremely unfortunate unintended consequence. At Helio, we don't believe it's a coincidence. We think that fat is good, and the Department of Health and Human Services agrees with us. For the first time in their organization's history, in their dietary guidelines, they've now actually recommended Americans begin to eat more fat. So, Benton, you're telling me I should eat more fat and less carbohydrates. What if I ate only fat and no carbohydrates? Is that a bad thing? Can I eat too much fat? No, in fact, that's kind of the objective. When you eat so much fat and there's a lack of carbohydrates and blood sugar, you enter a metabolic state called ketosis, where your body burns ketone molecules instead of blood sugar molecules. What happens in ketosis is amazing. Cognition is on fire. You have more efficient energy. Back to the oxidation thing, the ketones are just a cleaner fuel. And like I said, with the desired body composition, you're burning fat and you're storing muscle, the opposite of what happens in an unpreferred diet. So, briefly, what are ketones? Ketones are the only secondary fuel source to glucose. Typically, probably everyone in this room, barring a few exceptions, is running on glucose right now. there's two molecules that you can run on, glucose and ketones. Ketones are produced naturally in the liver in an absence of blood sugar. Typically, to burn through all your blood sugar, it's a 36 to 48 hour process to get into ketosis. But this gentleman that I'm standing with, Dr. Dom D'Agostino out of USF, who's featured in Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss on page 27, he's legit. He has duplicated this ketone molecule, this pure energy molecule, and made it available in a supplemental form, an ester liquid and a powder supplement. So I learned about all of this. My brother and I, we've been in nutrition for a long time, and we learned about all this stuff, and we're like, dude, there's no other option. Now that we know, we got to eat high fat, and we got to take beta-hydroxybutyrate ketones. Like, there's no other option. So we started doing it, and we felt amazing. We were eating high-fat lunches, high-fat dinners. We were taking supplemental ketones, and lunch and dinner were really easy, but there was no good breakfast options. There was nothing for breakfast that was high-fat, that was convenient, that was alkaline, that was high-vibe, that was just get you out the door convenient. So we made something, Dawn, the ultimate breakfast. It's a 50-ingredient smoothie blend. It has ketone molecules in it. It's got 25 grams of plant and algae fat, 25 grams of plant and algae protein, full dose, like I said, of beta-hydroxybutyrate ketones. It's got 10 servings of vegetables, which is more than your entire daily requirement in one meal. It's got a full nootropic stack for brain cognition, all coming from herbs. 3 grams of net carbs, which is very low, and 3 grams of sugar. This has not been thrown together. It's been in R&D for over a year, and I'm pumped that now we're sharing it with you. So these are a couple examples of what a Dawn smoothie looks like, or a Dawn bowl. We advocate the best way to take it as a smoothie bowl. High fat, high protein, low carb, low sugar smoothie bowl. It's delicious, it's intelligent, it's nutrient dense, it's got a high vibration. What's next? So our objective now as a company is to grow our monthly distribution to 555 monthly customers. At that level, we'll be $1 million business. I feel like things can start getting fun. We are hoping to start launching partner locations, places that you can go in and order a Dawn bowl off of the menu. Smoothie shops, coffee shops, juice stops, etc. We don't want to go retail because this is a curated product. There's a little bit of education to it. So the retail partnerships that we do want, we want to have as a menu item. And our distribution strategies are through Amazon and Instagram. So it would be awesome if you connected with us. Our Instagram is helio.today. I am Benton Munyon. Our Facebook is Helio Today. And for more information on the product and the company, please visit our website. Today is instead of com. There's no com at the end of it. www.helio.today. Thank you guys so much for your ears. That went faster than I expected. So I am now would love to accept any questions and go into more detail.
Big round of applause. And then expert panel, if you want to take it away.
All right, awesome. Fantastic presentation. I can tell you've got energy. You're selling it. And you kind of touched on this, but and this is the industry that I live in. I'd love to know a little bit more about how you are manufacturing this. How are you? So I'm guessing you're saying it's all direct to consumer. So you're shipping these out one packet at a time to those customers. How is that all working for you right now?
For sure. Yeah, thanks. So we manufacture it at an amazing laboratory called Amerigo Labs, and it's just so convenient that he's standing by our packaging solution. No, this wouldn't have happened without Ralph Macer, so please give it up for the man himself. Really, like, I've had an extraordinary amount of help, and I owe Ralph a lot. So we ship out a month's supply. Comes in a really nice orange box. And so inside is, this is what a meal looks like. 5x7 envelope, 93 grams of powder. We manufacture it all by hand. Effectively, we source all the raw ingredients. They come in, we mix them, we mesh them, we put them into a powder auger, flip the auger, take it out, put it through a funnel, fill the bags individually, compress, heat seal them, throw them in the box, ship them out the door.
And then the only addition to that, and I'll honestly say I didn't spend a lot of time on the website, but obviously doing my research, so I spend about as much time as I normally, if I saw it on Facebook, if I saw an advertisement, I spent some time on the website. The one thing that I didn't get immediately is how it worked. Like physically, like when I get the packet, what do I do with it? Do I add it to something that I'm already eating? Is it, do you make just a sole milkshake out of it? Exactly how that process works. it's simple, I've got it now. But that's the only thing that I noticed when I was looking through.
Excellent. Our original objective was actually go more of a like Soylent route, like prepackaged in a bottle, drink it anywhere kind of thing. But I didn't feel like, after we launched, I realized that I wasn't giving the consumer enough credit. People have 3 minutes to make a smoothie and make it a much better experience. So we've gone with the prepackaged. But like, for example, if you're on the go or you're camping or hiking or whatever, putting in a water bottle and shaking it is totally awesome. I had that this morning.
Oh, absolutely. And the logistics of moving a powder around, so much easier.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I had a buddy bring me a pack of this stuff. I think you might have interviewed with him, Bobby Birch over at Startland News, and he's like, hey, try this stuff out. I'm like, sure, because I love my morning smoothie. I see
Sweet.
chia seeds, I see goji berries, I see walnuts, I love all that stuff.
Yes, sir.
The one thing I noticed is it had that artificial sugar taste, whatever it is, stevia or something. I don't know if that's in there. So I'm curious to talk about maybe what those ingredients are that do that. And also, how does this compare to like the craze of Soylent?
Sure. So yeah, I knew Soylent was going to come up at some point. They've done a really good job at creating like creating an industry around future food. And what they've done as a concept is really interesting. Hey, like we can get all the nutrition we need if it's just formulated correctly. I have a couple personal issues with Soylent, just I wouldn't consume it. It's soy protein, which isn't good for men at all. It's got estrogen in it, which is kind of the opposite of testosterone. So I wouldn't advocate Soylent for men, just the fact of the matter. Or soy, by that, you know, while we're talking about it, or soy. Men should stay away from soy, is my belief. And among other things, it's high carb and it's high sugar, and we've gone the high fat. We're kind of the opposite of Soylent. And to the flavor taste, we've flavored it with some stevia and monk fruit so that we could keep the real sugar down, because we could, you know, we could jack it up with sugar, but that defeats the whole purpose. So we've actually, one of our mottos is always in beta, and so we're always testing, and we've got another formula with 0 grams sugar that is coming along quite nicely, and it's got a smoother, more rich taste, and this is a little bit of a sweeter taste, but our objective, my objective when formulating this was like, okay, I know exactly what I want the nutrition to be, and let's reverse engineer off of that. Not, let's go for a good taste and fit what we can in. It was exactly full days of vegetables, high protein, high fat, low carb, low sugar, BCAAs, nootropics, that kind of stuff working backwards, and then we flavored it how we could.
I'd like to officially put my name in the bucket to be a beta tester, so if you just put me on that shipping list, yeah, perfect. The other question I have for you is coffee. Like, a lot of people are drinking coffee. People drink caffeine. It's an addiction to some degree for energy. Do you drink coffee? Do you suggest it? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, great question. I drink coffee from time to time. I used to drink it a lot more. I have 2 knocks on coffee, and I have 1 solution if you're just simply not going to give it up. So my 2 knocks on coffee are, it's acidic, and wellness is a synonym to alkalinity. Alkalinity is a synonym to oxygen. Oxygen is a synonym to living a long time. So if we reverse engineer that, acidic kind of shortens our life quality. And caffeine is a stimulant, which just fries our adrenal glands, and I believe that energy should be produced from within and not relied on from external sources. So that's kind of my 2 cents on coffee, but that doesn't change the fact that it's delicious and it's awesome, and when you drink it, you feel good. So what I do with coffee is, there's a gentleman, actually on the first slide, one of the pictures was with him. His name is Dave Asprey. He started Bulletproof, and Bulletproof coffee is this idea of putting fat with your coffee. And so I have 2 moderations of Bulletproof coffee that I do. MCT oil, which stands for medium chain triglyceride, which is a medium chain of fat that can't be stored. So it's either burned or it's pooped. And so that's why if you do too much MCT, you get digestive issues. But if you do the right amount of MCT, then you're burning it instead of anything else. So I'd like Bulletproof coffee. Some people like putting butter in with it as well. But in replacement of the for alkaline and no caffeine, I've been doing Bulletproof matcha recently. So it's a nootropic style green tea, and I put MCT in that, blended up with some coconut milk or almond milk. But I know that there are people who won't give up coffee, so my recommendation to you would be buy some MCT oil on Amazon for $17 and put some fat in your coffee.
All right, we'll open it up to audience questions. Please raise your hand.
Question over here on your right.
I've been nice presentation. I've been hearing a lot from you about you from the Belzers, actually, and they just gave me a packet yesterday.
Awesome.
So there's a lot of stuff like this on the market right now. Ketone sounds like that's somewhat of a differentiator, but what else makes your product unique versus what's on the market right now?
Absolutely. So nutrition is absolutely, it's a crowded space. There's a lot of people who who want to be involved in nutrition. I think it's a big market for good reason. Right now, we're experiencing the wellness revolution. You've seen the statistics on unhealth, and I think that over the next 10 to 30 years, we're going to experience a revolution into health, and I think a lot of large companies are going to be built. So I'm a supporter of lots of companies in this space. Ketones themselves are a differentiator, like leaps and bounds ahead of anybody else, like a Soylent or something like that. Ketones puts us way far ahead. And then if we look at the ketone competition, what our original belief around ketones is that just BHB molecules by themselves are rather hollow. Yeah, it's going to suppress your appetite. Yeah, it's going to give you some energy. But I come from a world of internal cleansing and plant medicine and herbal power and things like that. And I realized that there's a lot of micronutrition that you're missing if you're just fasting all day on BHB. So what the combination of this putting us so far ahead is kind of the science and nature component where we can jumpstart ketosis, but we're also prioritizing vegetables and detox and alkalinity and things like that.
I have a question over here.
Sure.
I have two questions. First one, ketones concerning a diabetic.
Yes.
Is there a concern that you can have too many?
Yes, that's called ketoacidosis, and ketoacidosis is a 911 call. A diabetic that got ketoacidosis, they would have a millimolar, which is kind of the reading level, a millimolar level of blood ketones over 15 or 17 or 20, and that's dangerous. Supplemental and nutritional ketosis is 0.5 to 4 millimolars, and we're sitting around walking around at 0.0. So just getting up to 0.5, 3.5. Some friends and I have been experimenting with fasting and supplementing just BHB by itself along with our meal, and we've gotten as deep as like 4.5, 5, but way far away from the danger zone. But for diabetics, that's an insulin blood sugar type of issue where they're so reliant on carbohydrates and sugar that a switch can be interesting, and that's one of the main reasons why we've been formulating this second product, is so that we can monitor insulin and blood sugar while that switch occurs, because we know that diabetics need this more than anyone.
Excellent. I have a second question. You said you weren't going to put it in retail, right? So have you considered the direct sales model for your product?
Yes. I have experience in direct sales. Back-to-back years, 2013, 2014, some friends and I, we all did over 7 figures in direct sales ourselves. And so that was really my first experience in nutrition and distribution. So I believe in that model massively. The trick about launching something like that is it grows very quickly and you have to have the capital to withstand. And so one of our objectives now is becoming $1 million business and then having the cash flow where we can turn on a nationwide affiliate program.
Question in the middle.
There's probably 90% of the people in the room that have either been on a diet or a health craze over the last 20 or 30 years, so you're in a pretty good market.
Yeah.
My question, you commented that you need 555 people to make you $1 million company. That's $1,801.23 a month. Is that correct? What makes you $1 million company at 555 people, unless that's your actual cost?
No, 555 people buying a month's supply, which costs $150, which is 20 meals at $7.50 each, same price as Chipotle. So it's a $150 monthly subscription, 555 people doing that's $83,000 a month in revenue times 12, $1 million a year.
Question down front.
Yeah.
Hi, I was just wondering, you were talking about the nutrition market is huge. How did you validate your idea? Like, how did you say this is the thing that I'm going to create and people are going to buy it? Like, how did you go forward with that?
Probably 80, I want this, so I'm going to do it. 20, I think people might like it. Because for us, it was scratching our own itch. It was like, there's no good breakfast, and everybody should eat breakfast or does eat breakfast. And so we have an opportunity that if people don't know they want it, we can educate them on the fact that they do want it.
Question back here. Wait.
Yep.
First of all, I just want to say the product's awesome. Had a couple of recipes of my own I tried out. But I have a question for people who are more on the go. I understand that a shaker bottle is fairly convenient and like the mixes up really easily. Have you ever thought about doing like bars or stuff like that that's kind of like you just pop it open and it's good to go and you start getting the benefits, not necessarily like the 25 grams of fat, 25 grams of protein, but like kind of scaling it back to be a more of a like a quick snack that is extremely beneficial, because you know we look at Cliff bars or like things of that nature, but they're just a little bit higher in sugar than most people want, or like the artificial ingredients, but you know there is sacrifice with a product that can be beneficial in that aspect.
No doubt. We've discussed and actually tested some high-fat bars. bonded actually with some of the Belser's gluten-free syrup. So we've tried a few things, and I totally believe in like some macadamia, almond butter, like really awesome bars. So they're coming. It's just, you know, a simple matter of like, where do we start and how do we scale? In 10 years, we'll have everything under the sun, like the sweetest product line on planet Earth. But for now, we started with breakfast.
Question down front.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Christina. Really nice presentation. I have two questions. The first one is, are you targeting the global nutrition market or the sports nutrition market? And the second one is, you mentioned that you are going to utilize the social media, Instagram, Facebook, and so on. How are you going to increase your database? Are you going to use influencers or any other strategy?
Awesome. Thanks for your presentation last week. I enjoyed it. And thank you for your question. Definitely the global nutrition market. I don't really see any preference versus, you know, demographics or others. So anybody that eats breakfast, which is everybody. As far as Instagram, we have a couple strategies. We film and record and document everything. We're loyalists of VaynerMedia and Gary Vee and just kind of that whole idea of growing social through documentation and authenticity and just a simple storytelling kind of manner. And then also in like 80 that and then 20, like, you know, there's always that like nailing the algorithm component where we're going and finding relevant hashtags, people that are talking about things that we're already talking about, automating simple processes, stuff like that. So I think we have a good grip on it. One of the things that is just difficult about doing this is a couple lucky breaks and some people talking about you. We want to do influencers. I'm on a podcast tomorrow, which I'm pumped about. This guy's got 500,000 Facebook likes. So like events like that I hope will propel us faster than they do slow, but we're also totally committed to just grinding it out.
Question to your right.
Yeah.
Benton, great job in the, I like the product. It seems really interesting to say the least. You had mentioned earlier about, you said 555, you have 555 customers per month, correct? And you're charging $150 a month for what?
This, 20 meals, $7.50 a meal.
$750 a meal or $7.50 a meal?
$7.50 a meal.
Okay, so, and how many guys are you working on this with currently?
Jack, Ralph, Ryan, 4 of us.
Okay, what's your profit margin? That's the biggest question.
If you have a relevant reason for asking, we can talk privately, but like not gonna really disclose. It's business, and we make money, and that's, you know, part of it. But our main objective is helping people, and so like that's kind of what our forward message is all about.
Question back here.
Hi. So you mentioned research and development. You mentioned, like everybody has mentioned, the diets and the fads and health issues. Is it just a couple guys in a basement testing out some recipes? Do you guys have backing from doctors? Are you going to be regulated by the FDA? Basically, how are you setting yourself apart from like the fit tea, which is basically dirt and water that makes you pee? How are you going to legitimize yourself?
That's awesome. We are a couple guys, no basement though. We're lucky, the stars aligned, and we collaborated with Ralph and his wife Carol, and they've got a 6,000 square foot manufacturing facility. They just had an organic inspection a couple weeks ago. They did an FDA inspection. I mean, it's top notch, clean, total up and up. We wear gloves, hair nets, beard nets from time to time. So we are scaling appropriately, and we know what the next level looks like. And you know, like I said, it's like we're in this for quality and for actually making a difference. And so like we're not interested in putting dirt in a bag and making people pee. Like we actually want you to feel it because retention. And it's so much easier to sell 555 things month over month to people that love it, the 1,000 true fans philosophy, than it is to be spinning wheels, getting new business, talking to new people. Like it'll run you ragged. So I'd rather just work with people that like really dig it. And so we have to go above and beyond to do that.
Question down front.
What up, man?
What's up, man?
All right, so this is not necessarily a question. I mean, he did already, you kind of answered it with the bars and things. I thought that would be excellent. I really just wanted to let everybody know, for me, for being a fitness addict, this is like one of the best products on the market. The first time I tried it, I mean, I called him and let him know I had so much energy for the day that I was just ready to do so much. And so it smelled good coming out the bag, mixed it with almond milk. I mean, I thought I was having pancakes and everything. I mean, it was great. So, you know, I just want to let everybody know this is a great product and this man really knows what he's talking about. and it does justice for your breakfast, especially on the go.
Thank you.
Benton, last question, man. What can we as a community do to help you?
Yeah, so please follow us on Instagram. We really want to just grow our social presences. We really have 3 objectives: grow our social, increase our customer base, and get connected with people who can help us grow our customer base via retail outlets, coffee shop owners, co-working owners, juice shop owners, etc., and Instagram influencers, doctors, physicians, chiropractors, nutritionists, people that are going to advocate for us. So buy the product or tell someone that can get us to find people that will buy the product.
Give it up again, guys. Good job, man.
Thanks.
I cannot believe how big this crowd is right now. I want to see all you guys back here next week. Hey, before you leave, make sure to come up to our table up here and grab one of these flyers. We're doing E-Day at the K. Get your information. And next week, we have Command.app and Rock Dolly equipment. Make sure you're here.